In a quiet corner of Maple Grove, where the old highway meets Main Street, sat Ellie's Diner. The place hadn't changed much since the 1970s. Red vinyl booths still creaked when you sat down, the jukebox played soft country tunes from decades past, and the smell of fresh coffee and apple pie wrapped around you like a favorite sweater. Folks in their 50s and 60s often stopped here after morning walks or errands, sharing stories of raising kids, long work years, and the simple lessons life teaches when you slow down enough to listen. On a mild Tuesday afternoon, young Sarah Thompson sat by the window. Sarah was 28, with gentle blue eyes and a warm smile that came easily despite the challenges she carried. She had been born with cerebral palsy that made her movements slower and unsteady. She used a sturdy walker with bright yellow grips, a gift from her late father who always told her, "Steady steps and a steady heart get you further than speed ever will." Sarah came to Ellie's every week for a slice of pie and a cup of decaf. It was a small ritual of independence in their close-knit town. That day, the diner was half full with regulars. Sarah had just taken her first bite of cherry pie when three young men in their early 20s walked in, laughing loudly. They wore hoodies and backward caps, the kind of boys who still acted like the world owed them something. They spotted Sarah and began whispering. One of them, a tall boy named Jake, smirked and approached her table. "Hey, slowpoke," he said, loud enough for others to hear. "Need help eating that? Or are your hands too shaky?" His friends laughed. Sarah looked down, cheeks flushing, but she kept her voice soft. "I'm just trying to enjoy my pie. Please leave me be." Before anyone could react, Jake leaned in and slapped her cheek, not hard enough to bruise badly, but sharp enough to sting and humiliate. The sound cut through the gentle hum of the diner. A few customers gasped. An older man at the counter started to rise, but the boys were already backing toward the door, still chuckling. Sarah sat very still, tears gathering in her eyes, one hand touching her face. The waitress, Linda, hurried over with a napkin and kind words, but the moment lingered like a shadow on a sunny day. Time passed slowly after that. The wall clock ticked past the minutes. Sarah stayed, quietly finishing her pie because she refused to let fear chase her out. She thought of her father's words again, about dignity being something no one could take unless you handed it over. A few locals offered gentle comfort, but the air still felt heavy. Almost an hour later, the bell above the door chimed. In walked a group of 5 motorcycle riders. They were men mostly in their late 50s and early 60s, weathered by years on the road and in life. Their leather vests carried patches from veteran groups and charity runs. Leading them was Tom Hargrove, a broad-shouldered man with a graying beard and kind brown eyes. Tom had served in the army years ago, then spent decades as a mechanic, fixing more than just engines. He fixed what he could for neighbors too. Beside him was his longtime friend, Mike Riley, quieter but steady, a retired teacher who rode to clear his mind after losing his wife to cancer. The others, Ray, Eddie, and Frank, were much the same, rough-looking on the outside, but carrying the kind of hearts shaped by real living. They took their usual booth near the window, nodding politely to the other customers. Tom's gaze soon fell on Sarah, who was still sitting with her walker beside her and a faint red mark on her cheek. He noticed how she kept her head up, but her shoulders carried a quiet sadness. Tom stood up slowly, his boots heavy on the old linoleum, and walked over. He said in a low, calm voice. "Mind if I sit for a moment?" Sarah looked up, surprised by the gentle tone from such a big man. She nodded. "I saw that mark," he continued softly. "And I've seen that look before. Some folks forget that every person at this counter has fought battles they don't show. My daughter, God rest her, she had troubles walking too. Taught me more about strength than any war ever did." The other bikers joined quietly. Mike brought a fresh cup of hot chocolate for Sarah, the kind with extra marshmallows, just like his wife used to make. "No one deserves to be treated that way," Mike said. "Not in our town. Not anywhere." They didn't raise their voices or make threats. Instead, they simply sat with her, sharing easy stories. Tom spoke about learning patience while rebuilding old Harley engines, one bolt at a time. Ray recalled helping his elderly neighbor after a storm, realizing kindness was the real horsepower in life. Eddie mentioned how his granddaughter, who used braces on her legs, lit up the world with her drawings. Their words wrapped around Sarah like a warm blanket, reminding her that the world still held good people who remembered the old ways, respect, patience, and looking out for one another. Word spread quietly among the bikers. When Jake and his 2 friends happened to drive past the diner again, They saw the row of gleaming motorcycles parked outside. Something in the sight made them pause. They didn't come back in. Later, the sheriff would say the boys received a calm but firm talking to from community folks who believed in second chances paired with clear boundaries. Before leaving, Tom paid for Sarah's meal and left extra for Linda. "You come back anytime, Miss Sarah," he told her. "We ride through here regular. If you ever need a safe escort home or just someone to sit with, you holler. Life's too short for anything but looking after each other." Sarah watched them mount their bikes and rumble away down the old highway. The sound wasn't frightening. It felt steady, like distant thunder that brings rain to thirsty fields. She touched her cheek, which no longer stung as much, and smiled softly. In the years that followed, folks in Maple Grove would tell this story not as a tale of conflict, but as a reminder. We all carry hidden struggles. Some wear them on the outside like Sarah's walker. Others carry them inside, behind leather vests and calloused hands. The real measure of a person isn't how tough they look, but how gently they treat those who need it most. And on quiet afternoons, when the jukebox played those old country songs, you might still find Sarah at her window table, sharing pie with new friends. Because in the end, a single act of kindness, offered without fanfare, can echo through decades, teaching all of us what our parents and grandparents tried to pass down. That decency never goes out of style, and the best parts of life are built one steady, patient moment at a time.